All right, welcome back, everyone, for Talkback here in hour number 2. Al Quartermont, Sandra McQueen with you. A lot going on in Washington today, a big news conference that'll feature the president along with Elon Musk. We know that Elon Musk is stepping away from his current position in the government, working with Doge. But Elon Musk, as described by Senator John Kennedy, is a total baller. The man's got tiger blood. And joining us on the phone to talk more about that and other things today, Senator John Kennedy. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Al. Good morning, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today. Let's start there. Elon stepping away. I had to laugh. It almost sounded like a John Kennedy line, but the Babylon Bee said Elon Musk leaves job of making government more efficient for much easier job of sending humans to Mars. I had to laugh at that one.
I love the Babylon Bee. They come up with some interesting perspectives.
They definitely do. So what are your thoughts on Elon Musk, what he's accomplished, and what does Congress need to do to get a lot of what his team discovered and codified so that we don't go right back to the same old thing?
Well, I think Mr. Musk has done an extraordinary job. For the first time in as long as I can remember, he not only talked about getting rid of waste, which I call spending porn. He did something about it. He was criticized, as you would expect from my Democratic colleagues, but he did it. And now we need to put his work into a permanent form. If we were to, in order for us to enact the spending cuts that Elon talked about, we have to pass a bill in the Senate. That means we need 60 votes, which means we need at least seven Democratic votes, and we won't get them. But there's another way. It's called a rescission package. Only the president can send us what's called a rescission package. All a rescission package is the president saying to Congress, look, I want you appropriated money, but I want you to unappropriate it. But he has to initiate that. But if he will do that, we only need a majority vote instead of 60 votes to pass it. And I met with President Trump, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago, to ask him, please send us that rescission package, and we'll pass it. And I think he had some pushback from members of his staff, but I understand from an announcement that his OMB director made last week, he's going to send us that rescission package Monday so we can start putting Mr. Musk's proposed cuts into action.
Wow. Well, that's we will be watching that anxiously, because that's what we talked about this morning, is sort of how do you create a lasting impact from the work that he has begun. So that sounds very encouraging. Wanted to ask you about the budget, the continuing resolution. It's now on the Senate's in the Senate's hands, and wanted to kind of get your thoughts about where that's going to go. And another question we had come up this morning was, will that continuing resolution just fund government through September 30th, or will that take you through the next fiscal year? Can you explain it a little bit to us?
Good question, Sandra. I know it's complicated. Look, what the Senate has before us is called a reconciliation bill. A reconciliation bill is just a form of a budget bill that only requires a majority vote as opposed to 60 votes to pass in the Senate. So that means if we get all the Republicans, or most of them, to vote for it, we can pass it without any Democratic support, which is important because the Democrats aren't going to vote for it. The House did a good job. Mike Johnson and his team, Steve Scalise, they sent us a bill. We want to improve on it. The main thing that the bill does one of the main things, is to renew the tax cuts. We cut taxes back in 2017. Those tax cuts expire at the end of this year. If we don't extend them, there will be an automatic $4.3 trillion tax increase on everybody in America. And I mean everybody, not just the so-called rich, but everybody. And that will tank this economy. So that's the first objective in the bill. The second objective is to try to reduce spending. Now, the House cut spending $1.5 trillion over, 10 years? That's a lot of money, but I think we can do better. And that's where the fight's going to come among the Republicans in the Senate. I want to reduce more spending, but some of my colleagues don't agree with me. And that's where we are. Now, there's some other provisions in the bill, more money for border security, more money for defense, but those are the two main issues, renewing the tax cuts and cutting more spending.
Gotcha. So does that take us then through the end of the year, or how long would that bill cover?
Well, the bill, if we pass it, would be permanent.
Okay.
And it's a form of the budget bill, but it's not the entire budget bill. Once we finish the reconciliation bill, we'll start on putting together a budget for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Which will be a fight because we have to have 7 Democratic votes to do it, and the Democrats don't want to cooperate.
Yeah. Hasn't it been years since Congress has passed a budget bill other than kind of the continuing resolutions?
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because of the necessity of getting the Democratic votes in the Senate, we haven't passed a budget bill. We've just been doing what Sandra correctly called a continuing resolution. That just means we take the current budget and roll it over for a longer period of time, in some cases 90 days, in some cases 6 months, and that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. Not the best way to kind of govern things, is it?
No, it's not. And in a perfect world, we would pass a budget. But the problem with that is there's such a sharp division in the Senate. Mm-hmm. My Democratic colleagues don't want to make any spending reductions. In fact, they want to spend more. Their favorite form of spending is more. And I'm not going to vote for that. Yeah. And a lot of Republicans are not going to vote for that. So we end up in stalemate. And we can't pass a budget. I mean, we could pass a budget if I and a few more of my Republican colleagues gave in and just said, okay, Democrats, whatever you want, we'll agree to it in order to pass a budget. But I'm not going to pass a budget under those terms.
Sure. We're talking with Senator John Kennedy. There's so much going on in Washington right now. I know this week one of the big news stories has been the 3-judge panel that basically said that much of the president's tariffs are unconstitutional, and then that decision was kind of momentarily stayed, I guess, if you will, until a greater review can be done. And it's led to a lot of people talking about how frustrating it is that it seems like a lot of what the president is trying to accomplish is constantly being undermined at the lower court judicial level. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's what's going on. Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to impose or remove tariffs. Congress, by statute, has given some of that power to the executive branch, to the president. So there's no question that the president has authority over some aspects of tariffs. What the federal courts did this week was say, well, yes, the president has authority, but he exceeded his authority. And that's what they're debating in the courts right now. But there's no question. I mean, I know there's been a lot of commentary, that the president doesn't have the authority. Yes, he does. The issue is the extent of that authority. Mm-hmm. The decision by the district courts will be appealed, and I think most, if all of what they did, will be overturned on the appeal. But in the meantime, nothing's going to change. We'll continue to negotiate on trade deals. The media, to no one's surprise, has made a much bigger deal out of this than it really is.
Imagine that.
Yeah, really.
About the only thing they didn't make a big deal of was Joe Biden's mental condition while he was president, and now we're seeing all of this coming out with the Jake Tapper book. I mean, no one's really surprised by this, but I think it just further is the reason why people are less trusting of the media.
Well, I mean, look, we all saw the same thing. I saw what you saw. Very early in President Biden's presidency, it was clear that he had neurodegenerative disease, and it was getting worse. And the American people saw it. I mean, some days he would be fine. Other days he would talk like he's from outer space. Mm-hmm. The American people saw it, but in Washington, the Democrats and many members of the media pretend that it wasn't the case. And every time somebody pointed it out, the media went berserk. And then came the debate when no one could deny it. I mean, it was just one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen. The most powerful person in the world unable to finish a sentence without taking a nap. And when he did finish it, you didn't know what he said. Mm-hmm. And the media and the Democrats could no longer deny it. And now they're in the stage of, well, we never denied it. We didn't know it was happening. Well, you know, everybody else did, and nobody believes them. And it's just one more example of how the media has squandered the trust of the American people.
Yeah.
You know, the American people don't expect the media to always tell them what they want to hear. They just expect the media to tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. And the media on President Biden didn't do that. I mean, that's just undeniable.
One last thing I want to get to you about here. We're reading that the U.S. and Iran could be closing in on a nuclear deal. What are your thoughts on where that's heading?
Well, of course I want a deal, but I don't want any deal. Iran has to agree to give up all of its enriched uranium. To make a nuclear weapon, you have to have uranium, but you have to change the uranium in a way to make it volatile. And you do that with what's called centrifuges. And what Iran says is, look, we'll give up all our highly enriched uranium, but we want to keep some of the lesser enriched uranium, and we want to keep the centrifuges because we want to build power plants. Well, that's unacceptable. You know, I mean, nobody trusts Iran. I don't trust Iran. You know, I trust Iran like a Kmart bathroom. I don't trust them. And so my feeling is that the president ought to just stand firm and say, look, no, if you want a deal, if you want us to remove sanctions, if you want to be able to sell the oil, if you want to be a stable member of a world order, then you've got to give up all of your uranium and your ability to enrich uranium, period, end of discussion. And if Iran refuses to do that, then that tells me they're lying. They really want to keep the ability to make a nuclear weapon, and that's unacceptable. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, there's going to be a war. Mm-hmm. And that war will not be started by Iran or the United States of America. It will be Israel. I mean, Israel is not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Israel is going to jump on them like a cat on a fat rat. Yeah. Israel is going to bomb the hell out of them, and in that case, the only question will be, will America help Israel? Which I think we have a moral obligation to. Yep. Nobody wants a war. Right. The short way home here is for Iran just to give up a nuclear weapon and all of its ability to make one.
Senator Kennedy, we're out of time for this segment. Thank you so much. Always good to catch up with you.
Thank you, folks.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.